Hello and welcome back to the Functional Effect Optimization Weekly Group Coaching Call. It is always a pleasure to have all of you here with me. And this week is already week 4. It's hard to believe that we are already here in the fourth week of this group together. And as always, the goal is to take everything that we've been learning along the way and grow as we go week by week. So if you've missed out on the first couple weeks, unfortunately, week 2 had a slight technical difficulty and did not get recorded, but I do have the replay links for week 1 and week 3, so feel free to reach out to me. And if you haven't already muted your mic, if you could go ahead and mute your microphone. I'm coming to you from my phone tonight instead of from my desktop computer. So for me to mute everyone is a little bit harder tonight. So if you could do that for just a little bit of housekeeping purposes. Um, but I'm really excited to be here as always. And over the last few weeks, we've done a lot of work, a lot of important work. We've identified habits that are no longer serving you. We've clarified your goals. We've broken down your goals using the GSPA framework. And again, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I will give you those replay links. And we've worked on aligning your goals with your core values and your identity, which is what we did last week. And yet, there's one thing that if we don't address it, it still stops so many of you from making progress, even when you know very clearly what to do, even when you've clearly defined your goals. It's the belief that things need to look a certain kind of way before you can start, that you need more time, that you need more energy, that you need better circumstances, or that you need a clean slate before you take action. Tonight, we are talking about why waiting for the perfect conditions keeps us stuck, and how learning how to show up imperfectly is often the thing that finally gets you to a place where you are creating momentum. This is not about lowering your standards. It's about learning how to take the next right step, even when things aren't quite ideal or exactly the way that you want them to be. And I know that that can be hard for a lot of us, myself included, who have a tendency to want things to be perfect or to show up perfectly. Um, and the way that it might show up for some of us is, I'm going to wait until Monday to start. I'm going to wait until January 1st to start. I'm going to wait until the first of the month to start. I'm going to wait until I'm in a less busy season to start. I'm going to start once I fill in the blank. This can oftentimes, these excuses or reasons that we give ourselves for not doing something, it can oftentimes feel very responsible to be saying those things, right? You can feel like you're being the adult. But what this actually is doing is delaying action. High achievers are especially vulnerable to this phenomenon because we have a tendency to overextend ourselves, and using the excuse of busyness becomes a really easy one to use. And waiting or delaying, while it can feel really productive, ultimately, it is the thing that keeps us exactly where we are. And it is the thing that keeps us stuck and spinning our wheels. And I totally get it, because this was something that I continue to have to check myself on and to continue to work through from time to time, that I find myself getting stuck and caught up in this same thing that I'm talking to you all about tonight. So just don't think that I'm coming to you from a place of preaching. I'm coming to you from a place of understanding and from empathy, because I also have been in that place of feeling stuck, spinning my wheels, knowing what to do, but not taking action, because in my core beliefs, Somewhere along the way, there was something that said it had to be perfect in order for me to show up. So when we look at perfectionism as a whole, what perfectionism really is not this one faceted avatar of the person who is incessantly rewriting their classroom notes or fixing their hair in the mirror over and over again until it looks a certain way. While those can be things that a perfectionist type of person does, perfectionism does not mean caring too much. So I want to create some clarity here with the meaning behind what is actually perfectionism, because I do feel like there is some misalignment with what people view as a perfectionist. Perfectionism is a protective behavior. So I want to be really clear that perfectionism is designed, it's a behavior designed to keep us from experiencing failure, judgment, or disappointment. Perfectionism is not the overwhelming need to be perfect. It's the overwhelming need to avoid failure, judgment, or disappointment and the pain associated with it. And how it can show up, like I said, doesn't have to look like the person fixing their hair in the mirror 100 times, or the person rewriting their notes, or the person retying their shoes until their bows are equidistant apart. Perfectionism shows up as procrastination. Perfectionism shows up as over planning. Perfectionism shows up as rewriting your plan repeatedly because it's not quite right, or switching workout programs repeatedly, or switching nutrition protocols repeatedly because it's not quite right for you. It can look like starting over instead of continuing. It can be that simple. Waiting for ideal conditions is also another perfect example of somebody who might be stuck in perfectionism, but it not showing up the way that they think that a perfectionist shows up. So perfectionism promises safety, at least in our mind. But perfectionism is often the thing that costs us progress. And so what we are going to focus in on tonight, because again, my whole goal is not just to bring awareness to the things that you're doing, that we are doing as human beings that are holding us back from seeking our true potential, especially when it comes to our health and our wellness. But what I'm here to do is to provide you with tools and to provide you with skill sets that will allow you to start doing something about it. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is a pause and pivot framework that we are going to combine with the GSPA framework, the goals, skills, practices, and actions that we are going to break our 2026 goals down into. And this framework combined with the pause and the pivot is going to be what allows us to stay unstuck in our quest towards achieving whatever our health goals are. So when we talk about the pause and the pivot, this pause and pivot, I want to associate it to it's actually a coaching practice that I utilize with my clients. And it's one of the very first coaching skills that you get taught when you are learning the skill of becoming a health and wellness coach. But it's the skill of noticing and naming. And so I want all of you to work on getting really good at noticing and naming when you are getting stuck in a perfectionist moment. So, and that becomes what the pause is. So the pause and the pivot. The pause is the noticing. I notice that I'm waiting to do this thing. I notice that I'm overthinking this situation. I notice that I'm trying to get this thing perfect before I start. I notice that I told myself that I'm going to start this Monday. I need to do this now. It's noticing the tendencies of the perfectionism that is keeping you stuck. No shame, no guilt, just collection of data. You have to get good at noticing your own behavior before you can change it. So the pivot part comes when you can reconnect to your identity. Who am I becoming? Who are you becoming? And to your values. What is it that matters to you? What is it that matters to you to become the person that you are striving to become? And if you haven't yet done the core values worksheet or the core values exercise, go back to last week. The link to the worksheet, it's a Google document. The link to the worksheet is in the YouTube notes. So you can find that worksheet, go back and do that exercise, because ultimately, what we're going to do is look at what we're pausing on, look at what we're procrastinating on, look at what we are sitting on and waiting on. And we need to reconnect. Would a person who's trying to become fill in the blank, person who's trying to become stronger, person who is trying to improve their health markers, person who is trying to uh, move through a new season of their life, would this be the way that person shows up? It becomes a simple yes or no question. It's not something that we need to be applying through a lens of shame or guilt. It's asking yourself, am I doing the things that that person who I want to become would do? And if the answer is yes, great. But if you're being really honest with yourself, when you're stuck in a procrastination loop, and when you're overthinking something, and when you're waiting until Monday to do it, the person who has the health that you want isn't waiting until Monday. The person who has the fitness level that you want isn't waiting until February 15th to start. The person who has the health you want got started yesterday. The person who has the health you want is doing the things that are required of them right now, today. So the question that remains, if we're using that GSPA framework, taking your goals, translating them into skills, and then practices, and then daily, weekly actions, the question that remains is, what is the next action that you can take today to get one step closer to becoming the person that you want to become? And we have to think of this through the good old elephant metaphor. And I'll never forget, I was sitting, I can't remember, I think this was back in undergrad. My psychology professor, it was Psychology 101, Dr. Nesbitt, looks up at the class. He goes, "What's the best way to eat an elephant? Anybody know?" And of course, we're a room full of 18, 19-year-olds, and we're all like, I don't know. We weren't witty enough to know this. And many of you probably already know what I'm going to say, but the answer to this question is one bite at a time. And just like we can't eat the whole elephant at once, when you have big, hairy, audacious health goals, you can't tackle the whole thing at one time. And oftentimes, looking at the whole goal and being overwhelmed by the complexity or the overwhelming nature of that big, hairy, audacious goal can sometimes be the thing keeping us paralyzed and procrastinating for fear of trying to tackle this giant goal. So we have to think up through the lens of, what does one bite of that elephant look like? And if we think through the lens of, like, a big goal might be eat better, so for someone who wants to eat better, the idea of eating healthier is very daunting. That's a gigantic goal that has a lot of working parts, right? So if we break it down to what does one bite of eat better look like? No pun intended. A skill that could be involved with eating better could be planning simple meals, because planning simple meals equals repeatable, and repeatable meals equals consistency, right? A practice that could come from planning simple meals could be making sure that you're having a protein source at each meal of the day that day. So one practice could be focusing in on protein for the day. And then the action that you could be focused in on, the specific action could be choosing a breakfast, lunch, and dinner protein when you go grocery shopping and buying enough for 5 days. So that could be your actual action. So again, breaking down the overall goal of eat better into something as simple as go to the grocery store and pick out 3 different protein sources, that becomes much more palatable, much more digestible, and much more tangible than eat better. And so I want you to think through the one bite self check for yourself. What is a goal right now that feels really big for you that you are waiting for? Now, you can reflect on this silently, or you can drop this into the chat. Please feel free. But what is one thing right now that, and it could be a fitness related goal, it could be a health related goal, it could be a career related goal, a life related goal. But what is something right now that you are waiting for, that you are procrastinating, that you are sitting on, that you are not taking action on? And the second part of that question is, what is one bite that you could take towards that goal? So again, if your goal is to eat better, if your goal is to work out more, if your goal is to get more steps, what is your one bite better towards that goal that you could start with today or first thing? I mean, we're about at bedtime, or first thing in the morning tomorrow. What is your plan to get one step closer towards achieving that goal? And what would, the third part of this question, what would good enough look like? What does good enough look like versus perfect? That's definitely one for me that I struggle with, because I have it in my head that it needs to, again, look a certain way for it to be complete. Like for some of us, a workout in our mind might need to look like 60 minutes in order for it to be complete. The reality is that a workout is complete when you finished it. So if you have the time and the bandwidth to do two 15-minute strength training sessions a week, I'm here to tell you that please don't let someone tell you that you can't get work done in 15 minutes, because you can't. It's that we tell ourselves that 60 minutes is the only way that we get an adequate workout, because that's how long classes are, or that's how long a training session is. That's just how long they are. I'm here to tell you as a trainer that workouts can be any length of time. It's about making them for the way your body moves, making sure that it's safe for the way your body moves, and then it's making sure that it is centered around the equipment that you have available to you and that you can actually show up and do it. That's the best program for you. It's the one that you will show up and do. So if it needs to be 10 or 15 minutes, that's what it needs to be. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's the thing holding you back from doing your workouts, know that you have permission to do a workout and get it done, and it counts. If you have time to get in a traditional 60-minute workout, Just know that in this season of life, many times 60 minutes is overdoing it. So there's a lot to be said about finding your Goldilocks zone and working on challenging some of your own truths around what you think things need to look like in order for you to do them well, or in order for it to be making an impact. Because 50% of anything coming to fruition is you believing that it works. So, again, I challenge you to reflect. What are you waiting on right now? What is one bite that you could take today to get closer towards that? And what would good enough look like with that? I really want you to dig deep on this one and think about it because there's something that you're and it might not be fitness related, it might be life related, but there is something right now that you are digging your heels in the sand on and that you are not taking action on that is holding you back in some aspect of your life. And I'm here to say I'm just as guilty. There is something right now that I am digging my heels in on and I am not taking action on that I need to be taking action on. So know that you are not alone. And again, I'm not here preaching from my high place, that I am here speaking to you as a colleague and as somebody who struggles with the same exact things. So, last thing I want you to reflect on, and again, feel free to drop this in the chat or just reflect on this silently. But I want you to drop a word, a sentence, or again, jot this down for yourself in your notes. I want you to note and reflect on one place where you notice perfectionism showing up in your life right now. And I want you to also reflect on one small action that you could take today to break yourself free from that loop, whatever it is. And you do not have to share it. You do not have to tell us a thing here, but acknowledge where you are finding yourself being stuck. Because the sooner you can acknowledge it, the sooner you can break free from it and move forward from it. So, in closing, because as always, I want to keep these calls nice and short. I want to get you guys in and out and inspired to go slay the day on Fridays. I want to leave you with this. Progress doesn't come from doing everything perfectly. It comes from doing something consistently. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need ideal conditions. And you don't need to wait until you feel ready, because I'm here to tell you that you're never, almost never, going to feel ready. You just need to take one bite, one aligned action that supports the person you're becoming. Perfectionism will tell you to wait. Perfectionism will tell you that Monday is a better day to get started. Perfectionism will tell you that you need to do X, Y, and Z before you begin. But alignment will tell you that now is the best time. This week, what I want you to really focus in on doing is practice noticing the pauses and the procrastinations that come across in what you're doing and the actions that you may not be taking towards your goals. And in noticing your own pauses, choose to take the pivot anyway and choose to take the action anyway. That is my challenge to you. Notice where you are making the pauses and choose to take the action anyway. Make the action small enough that you can do it, that it's not so big, hairy, and audacious that it has you paralyzed. Break it down, have the goal until it no longer feels daunting. So, as always, I appreciate you guys being here so much. I am going to be posting the replay of the video along with the exercise that we went through tonight. So you will have the pause and pivot framework to also work on applying along with the GSPA framework and working on really identifying the goals and the values that are going to work as the drivers towards becoming the version of yourself that you want to become in 2026. Because know that I am here cheering for you. I have my own health goals too. And again, all of the things that I come to you with are all things that I work daily on applying to myself. So know that I am in the trenches right along with you, doing the same things that you're doing and cheering for you while I'm doing it. So as always, thank you so much for being here with me and thank you for showing up late. We had a slight pivot with our schedule this week, and I had to get one of my children home from swim practice before I could start tonight's call. So I thank you for being here a little later. We will be back to our normally scheduled time at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time next week. And remember, until then, you deserve to feel your best. I'll see you next time. Good night.